Good evening and welcome to the City Commission evening meeting this April 18th, 2023. I want to thank you all for being here. I know it's going to be a little awkward in the sequence of things we're doing tonight. We're going to abbreviate some of the items on the agenda. We'll get to that in just a moment. But if I could, I would like to ask the members or the folks participating in this meeting tonight to please stand to join in making the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Maybe now more than ever, we should take a moment of silence. Thank you. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Herbst,
Please take yourself off. Please take yourself off mute, everybody.
Commissioner Herbst,
I don't see him here.
Yeah, I see he's on, but he's muted.
Oh, there he is.
Here.
John, unmute yourself.
well, I can say he's here.
Okay. Right.
But I can't hear him.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, Commissioner Glassman,
Here.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman,
Here.
Commissioner Sturman,
Here.
Mayor Trentalis.
Here. Go back to John.
Commissioner Herbst, you're here.
Here.
Okay, so I have a few agenda announcements. We're going to be abbreviating tonight's program. First of all, we'll be removing from the agenda the presentations tonight. That's presentations 1 through 4. We're also there'll be some. We're also eliminating CM4 and also PH1 through PH9. All the public hearings will be removed, as well as OSR1. We will have one walk-on motion to ratify the proclamation of the local state of emergency that was issued on April 12th. That was last week. So aside from that, we have a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting and the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
We moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Herbst,
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman,
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman,
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes. So the minutes and the agenda have now been approved. So at this time, I'd like to ask members of the commission on the consent agenda items, if there are any items on the consent agenda that you would like to pull before we vote on all of them. So Commissioner Herbst, are there any?
Yes, CP1.
Which one?
CP1. Consent purchase 1.
Okay. And Commissioner Glassman?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Was that CM1 or CP1?
CP as in president.
Okay, CP1, thank you. I have none, thank you.
Okay. Vice Mayor?
I have none. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Sturman?
I have none.
You have none. Okay.
None.
So we had several people who have signed up to speak on consent agenda items. So before we vote on those, let's hear what these folks have to say, beginning with CM as in Mary 3, motion approving CM3, motion approving a sovereignty submerged land lease Renewal Board of Trustees for the Internal Improvement Trust Fund of the State of Florida. Felicia Cepides was asked to speak. Felicia, are you on the line?
No.
She's not on the line? No, I think. Okay, we'll move on from that. CM5, motion approving a lease agreement between YMCA and the city of Fort Lauderdale. That was pulled by Ken Krasnow. Is Ken on the line?
Yes.
Good evening, Mayor. Yes, I'm just here to answer any questions.
Okay, how about Mark Russell? He's with the
Same.
YMCA. Okay, how about and Cheryl Woods? Okay, those are just
Same.
the questions. Okay, all
Yes.
right.
Mayor,
Move on.
Mayor, I have a question for Ken.
Okay, go ahead.
So Ken, being that the city has poured in over $11 million to this project, plus the cost of land, why are we paying rent on this site? And was that ever thought of as being negotiated, maybe?
We're paying rent because the Y is marketing this space. If we didn't take it, they would have to rent it to someone else. We are getting a decent deal for the space. And I think if we went anywhere else in the corridor there, we would have to obviously pay rent, and we wouldn't get the quality of building that we're getting here.
But correct me if I'm wrong, we're actually paying $225,000 to actually do the space.
Well, you would have to pay rent. I mean, you'd have to pay a TI no matter where you went.
We would have to pay $225,000 to create the space, no matter where we went.
In that corridor, there's really very limited options in terms of space that's built and suitable for the police. This is raw space, so arguably it's a little more expensive, but the rent is lower than normal rents in that corridor for the other bays are going sort of in the mid-20s. The landlord is giving a modest contribution, and then the tenants are paying a substantial sum over that. So when you net out the lower rent and the 225, it's effectively a market rate deal for that space.
Okay, I just feel that with the money that the city has spent on the facility, I just think that we probably should not be paying any rent, but I'm in the minority opinion on that. But I just wanted to find out from your perspective and the real estate perspective, why we were actually paying that rent. But I thank you for the information.
Sure.
And Mayor, if I may say something.
Yes. Yes.
In regards to the rent that's being paid, the facility that the substation is in right now, they're actually paying more, they are paying more rent than they will be paying in the new facility. So I wanted to make sure that that was part of the conversation and that it's public knowledge. The current location is higher.
Is that for the same amount of square footage? You know what the square footage is in the existing space?
The footage you can ask PD about. You can ask them to answer that question, but I do know that it is more costly for where they are now.
It's about $1,500 difference. That's all. It's pretty close, actually. We're paying $22,272 now at the Mizell and Kurtz Funeral Home. The rent for this would be $20,600. So it's pretty close. But I don't think we spent $225,000 on building the police substation at the funeral home. And I don't think we gave the funeral home $11 million plus the cost of land to build the funeral home. But thank you.
Is the chief on the line?
I can talk about the build out.
Wait, before you get, is the chief on the line?
Good evening, Mayor. Yes, I am here.
Chief, do you know approximately what the square footage is at your existing substation on Sistrunk Boulevard?
No, I would say it might be slightly larger than the location that we're moving to, but to be honest with you, there's no comparison between the two facilities.
Okay, well, especially after we spent $250,000 building it out. Yes, Mr. City Manager, do you want to comment on that?
I just wanted to advise that the location of this police substation is strategic. It's very visible, and also want to remind the commission that within the past year we had some very violent crimes across the street that occurred
In part.
at Provident Park, and this would certainly help provide greater public safety presence. And I look forward to seeing that police substation open and available for anyone in the community that would like to ask questions of the police, or just have more community oriented policing services in that section. That would be very important for us.
Okay,
And I'm not disagreeing with any of that, city manager. I agree with you wholeheartedly. My perspective is just looking at this from the financials and how much we have invested there, and just thinking that we really should not be paying any rent at all. I'm looking at this solely from the financial end, but everything you say, I totally concur with.
And I would echo the same thing. I think this is a great location for it. I think it would have been preferable if the Y had offered us to the city at no cost. I think that's where my challenge with this is. It's not the location. I think it's ideal. But I think in a spirit of partnership and collaboration, I would certainly have hoped that the YMCA would have offered this space to the city at no charge, recognizing everything that we've done to help that facility locate there.
Exactly.
okay. Let's see, the next is CR2, David Nutter. David, are you on the line?
Do we need a vote on that, Mayor?
We're gonna vote them all together. These are people that have wanted to speak on the consent agenda items that were not pulled.
Okay, I thought we typically voted on the rest of the consent agenda and then we'd come back and do the ones that were pulled.
Well, these were not pulled,
Right.
but they
So I
signed
thought
up.
we
to
vote on
speak.
them. So just.
Can't vote on
as
them
a
until
process
they-
perspective.
We can't vote on them until they've had an opportunity to speak. So we have
No.
one more left. CR2, David Nutter.
Yeah, I'm just here in case anybody had any questions on it.
Okay, all right, very good. All right, so except for CP1, do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda items?
So moved.
Do I hear a second? Does anyone want a second?
Second.
Consent agenda? Okay. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Herbst,
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman,
Yes,
Commissioner Sturman,
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, and except for CP1, the consent agenda items are now approved. CP1 is motion approving a First Amendment to the Cemetery Management Software Agreement between the City of Fort Lauderdale and Site Industries. Commissioner Herbst, did you want to comment on that?
Thank you. Yes, actually, it wasn't a comment. I was really hoping for an explanation of what's going on with this particular contract from staff. I understand it's been significantly delayed, and I'd like some understanding and discussion as to why.
Staff is available to speak on that. Stacy Spates.
Who's to speak on it?
Stacy Spates.
Stacy, are you on the line?
She raised her hand.
You just raised her hand.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes, we can, Stacy. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. To answer your question, Commissioner Herbst, initially the vendor, there were some issues with the migration and the implementation of the software system. And so we were not happy with the data that was converted from, as you know, we had a contractor in place for 19 years. So
Yes, I
there
do.
were some issues and challenges there, as you can imagine. And so we are now ready to move forward. There has been a delay. The pandemic played a part in it. the critical point for us is, we are operating without a cemetery software for 4.5 years. And it is a liability on the city at this point because we are, severely handicapped by just operating manually.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. No, my question really isn't about the need for a system. I fully embrace that. I'm just wondering what the problems were that we experienced in getting this system installed. I think it's been, what, is it close to 3 years?
Yes. So the vendor was awarded it back in October of 2020. And again, there were some issues because the vendor initially did not take ownership of the issues that we, the challenges that were faced and some of the data that came over. And so everybody kind of went to their corners. And so we've been, negotiating for a while. And at first we didn't know how this would turn out. But the procurement area, Glenn Marcos and his team, and along with my supervisor, Carl Williams, did a wonderful job in bringing everything together. And we were both, we were honest with them that if you don't do what the contract called for and what you signed up for, then we would walk away and then we would have to take other means. But they came around and they said they're really ready to work and have a partnership, but it really stemmed from the conversion and the implementation.
All right, and we think at this point that they're going to be able to deliver on time and on budget and on quality?
Well, we haven't made any payments. We've made one initial payment. We haven't made any maintenance payments to them. So we are hopeful that we are ready to move together as a partnership. That's why we have this negotiating kind of, laying out a plan of what the responsibilities are of each, organization. So we are very hopeful that this will be successful. But we know that it's going to take definitely, dedication and commitment. And they said they're ready, and we certainly are too.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Would you like to make the motion to approve, Commissioner?
Yes, I'll make that motion.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
It's seconded. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Herbst,
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman,
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman,
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, and now all the consent agenda items have been approved. Moving on to motions, M1. Motion approving agreement for turf grass maintenance for city quadrants in the northwest, southwest, northeast, and southeast with visual scape. Would someone like to move to approve the item?
Move.
So moved. I hear a second.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Herbst,
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman,
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman,
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, and that was approved. M2, excuse me, motion approving an amendment to the services agreement between the city of Fort Lauderdale and the Fort Lauderdale Community Development Agency. Someone like to move that item?
Moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
The move is seconded. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Herbst,
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman,
No.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman,
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman,
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, and M2 is now approved. M3, motion designating the 10 most populous city seat to the Florida League of Cities Board of Directors. Traditionally, that's been the mayor's role. Does anyone else want to take down that responsibility? Because
You're doing an amazing job, Mayor. Keep up the good work.
Thanks. Thank you. All right. Do I hear a motion? Designate Dean Trentell. Okay, very good. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Move to seconded. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Herbst,
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman,
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman,
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes. M4, motion approving the city of Fort Lauderdale voting delegate and alternate for the National League of Cities 2023 City Summit and Annual Business Meeting this November. who was it this past time? Was it Vice Mayor? Was that you? Who was our delegate?
You were.
Yeah,
I was. I was the
Pam.
delegate.
No, that was Broward.
That was Broward.
But this is National League of Cities.
This is national. So I was not national, but
Okay. All right, is there anyone interested in being the delegate? I guess I was that person this past November. In fact, I remember that. I went to Kansas City, if I'm not mistaken.
I would like to, I would take on the role as alternate.
As alternate? Okay. So if anyone else, if no one else wants to be the delegate, I don't mind being the delegate again. So, oh, wait a minute. Is that the weekend of the antis? Hold on. Hold on.
It's early November, right?
Wait, hold on. There may be a conflict. Hold on. That's 16 to the 18. Yeah, I can't do it because we're having that the World Mayors Conference on Anti-Semitism. I believe it's that same weekend. Does anyone else wish to participate as the delegate? Dr. Sturman, why don't you take a shot at it?
Oh, yeah, my spare
John.
time.
John. I think Commissioner Glassman wants to stay here for the anti-Semitism conference.
All right, when is this again?
It's November 16th through the 18th.
In Atlanta.
It's in Atlanta, so it's a short trip.
November 16th to the 18th. Well, it means I missed the Coral Ridge Board. Let's see what else we've got in there. Missed the Gulf Ocean Mile Association, the Coral Ridge Board. Now, the good thing is the Marine Corps birthday is November 10th, so it doesn't interfere with that. So, yes, I will reluctantly go ahead.
Okay, so you'll be the voting delegate and the vice mayor will be the alternate. All right, do I hear a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
You really don't want to go to that conference. Somebody second.
Second.
Commissioner Herbst,
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman,
yes.
Commissioner Sturman,
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, and those appointments are now made. Moving on to resolutions, R1, appointment of board and committee members. You want to read the names into the record?
Yes, for the May 2nd resolution for Code Enforcement Board, Donald Ray Carney III, nominated by Commissioner Glassman. And for tonight's resolution, Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, Solomon Williams, nominated by Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman. Cemetery System Board of Trustees, Patricia Zeiler, nominated by Commissioner Glassman. Michael Watson, nominated by Commissioner Herbst. Community Appearance Board, Mark Kashian, nominated by Commissioner Glassman. Jack Placateris, nominated by Mayor Trentalis. Historic Preservation Board, Richard Gray, nominated by Commissioner Glassman. Parks, Recreation and Beaches Board, Tangerine Moore, nominated by Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman. Sustainability Advisory Board, Jason Ignite, nominated by Mayor Trentalis. And we had one additional, if we can add it to the resolution tonight, also for Sustainability Advisory, Susie Bailey, nominated by Mayor Trentalis. And that's it.
Are there any other modifications to these recommendations? If not, would someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced,
And that's as amended to add that additional name.
yes, as amended.
Thank you.
Please call the roll.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, appointing or nominating, if applicable, board and committee members as set forth in the exhibit attached here to and made a part hereof. Commissioner Herbst,
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman,
Yes,
Commissioner Sturman,
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis. Yes, and those board and committee appointments have now been made. I want to thank those folks who have agreed to participate for your commitment to our city, and thank you for your sacrifice. R2, Resolution appointing director, alternate, and second alternate for the Broward League of Cities Board of Directors. Vice Mayor, you're currently the director from Fort Lauderdale, correct? The Broward League.
I didn't hear your question. I'm sorry.
You're currently the Fort Lauderdale director at the Broward League of Cities.
No, they have me as an alternate standing in for you.
Yeah, you're until we pass this resolution.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to be the director?
I'll check it. Yes.
Okay. I can be an alternate or second alternate if somebody wants that. Does someone like to be an alternate or second alternate? It's just the Broward League. That means you have to go to a lunch once a month.
I'm
Hello?
on a diet.
And a dinner.
Oh, really? I've seen those pictures from the cruises. I don't see any diet you've been on.
Thank you.
I mean, I'll agree to be an alternate, so we don't have to have a second alternate. No one wants to do it. We just have to have those two. So someone like to introduce the resolution appointing the vice mayor, Pamela Beasley Pittman as director, and myself as alternate to the Broward League of Cities.
Introduced.
Okay.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, appointing Pamela Beasley Pittman as director to serve on the 2023-2024 Board of Directors of the Broward League of Cities, Dean Trentalis as alternate for the 2023-2024 Board of Directors of the Broward League of Cities. Commissioner Herbst,
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman,
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman,
Oh, I was muted. Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, and those appointments are now made. R3, this is a quasi judicial resolution approving a site plan level 2 development permit and design deviation requests. The Broward County Board of County Commissioners, the 600 North Andrews Avenue. This is the gallery at Flagler Village. Anyone wishing to speak must be sworn in, and the commission will announce any site visits, communications, or expert opinions received and make them a part of the record. Commissioner Herbst, do you have any disclosures?
Pulling that up right now, just move around here, I'll get back to you.
Okay, Commissioner Glassman?
Yes, I have a site visit. I met with Attorney Nectaria Chakas on March 25th, 2021. And I met with Robert Lockery on December 8th, 2022, and we discussed it last night at my District 2 pre-agenda meeting. Thank you.
Okay. Vice Mayor, do you have any disclosures?
I'm double checking from the earlier, probably like February. Stand by 1 second for me.
Okay. Dr. Sturman?
I believe that I had a site visit and met with the applicant.
Okay.
And
Back to you.
Mayor, getting back to it, so I met with Robert Lockery on January 11th.
Okay. Back to you, Vice Mayor.
Mayor, we did meet with Attorney Nectaria back in February. So that's my disclosure.
Okay. And I know met with the applicant as well as their representatives. And I did do a site visit. So we have two people signed up to speak, Leanne Barber and Robert Lockery. I assume Mr. Lockery signed up to respond to any questions.
Do you want the applicant to do a presentation or you're fine with?
Does the applicant have a presentation to make tonight, Mr. Lockery? Say again?
I have to swear him.
Yeah, but is he on?
Yes, beautiful.
You there?
Hi, good evening, Mayor. I'm connected now. Yes, this is Robert Locker on behalf of the applicant. Happy to answer any questions.
Could you please raise your right hand? Could you please come on the screen? We don't see him on the screen.
Yeah, let me see how to do that. It says it's unable to detect my camera.
Is it one that pops up at the top of your screen?
No, I'm on my laptop. It's just not recognizing it, Mayor. It's very strange. That's what always happens when you switch offices, but it's my same laptop. It's my computer.
All right, so
But I can attest as a lawyer, member of the bar, I will swear to tell the truth.
Can you attest that you're raising your right hand right now?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Go ahead. He's going to administer the oath.
Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, do you have any sort of presentation you want to make on behalf of the applicant?
Certainly, Mayor, but I can wait and if there's any questions and then go over it. This is a very similar project to the project you all saw in 2021. It is now coming back before you. It's a mixed income project with a total of 263 units, roughly 57% of which are affordable units, 53 at very low income and 97 in moderate income. The project also includes about 2,300 square feet of commercial space on the ground floor. And again, I do have a presentation. If you'd like me to show it, I'm happy to.
I think that would be important because this is a significant project at a very strategic corner. It's going to impact the community, especially it's a major intersection. So if you can give us some details on it, I think that would be great. And then I believe the president of the association would like to speak.
Yeah, so Mayor, I don't know, can you all see my screen now?
Yep.
Okay, great. So the site is located at the northeast corner of Sistrunk Boulevard and North Andrews Avenue. The site has been vacant for a number of years. As you all know, it's owned by, well, as many of you know, it's owned by Broward County. Broward County has teamed up with Related on a project that they've been working on for several years to bring this affordable component to the city. It is not, as I said, all affordable. It does have market rate units as well as the very low and moderate income units. I'll go on to the next page, which is a slide of the project as you're looking essentially towards the northeast from across the street. What you see here is the 7-story podium, which is completely lined with residential units along the west side of the building, along Andrews Avenue, as well as along Sistrunk. Above that is the residential portion of the building. The two things that have changed since 2021 is in order to keep the units at their size, which is a luxurious size, even though the actual units themselves, a portion of them are affordable. We've added 4 floors to the building height and 1 floor to the podium, which is the parking area. I will note that just across the street to the southwest of the site is a 30-story tower. This story at 16 stories is a good transition from the 30 stories across the street to the neighborhood further to the north. Next slide is a slide of the site plan itself. Again, on the left side here, you have Andrews Avenue, Sistrunk on the south. You'll see that there's a plaza both at the southwest corner of the property where there's also a retail and lobby experience. That's at the intersection, as well as a more significant larger plaza at the southeast corner where my hand is, where there will be a large growth tree that's currently there now, which will be maintained in that location, a large plaza area. Along Andrews Avenue, we have street trees, we have landscaped area, we have a minimum 10-foot sidewalk. And along Sistrunk, the sidewalk is 13 feet. It actually expands even further as you head further to the west. To the east. There is a turn lane as well that is on Andrews, which has been accommodating for this project. One of the waivers that's being requested is the step back waiver. We're providing what ends up being an actually more substantial step back than buildings to our east or west would have. And that's when you take into consideration the turn lane itself and that distance from the center line of the street. Access to the building and to the garage is along First, which is on the east side of the building. And this is the amenity area, which is up on top of the garage, so you don't see the garage even if you're looking down on the building. This next view is a view of the site from the other angle. In this case, we're looking to the northwest. Here you see the plaza I described, the commercial and amenity area on the corner of the building, and the building itself as it steps up. That's essentially my presentation. Happy to get into any more detail that you may.
Mr. Lockray, can I just ask you?
Sure.
What is you're asking for a reduction in the setback from 12 to 7 feet? Did I read that correctly?
That's correct. So that is the same request that was in the prior approval that was approved by the commission. It's not the setback itself. The setback itself for the building for the podium actually exceeds your requirement. I'll show you in the next graphic kind of how that lays out. Ordinarily, a building would be required. What you see on the right is what you typically would get, which is the tower itself is set back 35 feet from the center line. And then the tower portion, which is above the podium, is set back 12 feet, which ends up in the tower essentially is 47 feet from the center line of the street. In this case, because there's an additional turn lane there, which moves the property line even further, our podium step back from the middle of the street is actually 45 feet. So even though the tower step back, instead of being 12, is 7, the building itself is set back 52 feet from the center line rather than 47 feet. So the practical reality is it allows this building to be built with the affordable units and actually provides that as you're driving down the street, this tower will be further to the north than other similarly situated buildings to the east and to the west.
But let me ask you, so what would be the width of the sidewalk? What's the distance between the end of the property line and the beginning of the right of way? What's the distance there?
So we still have a 13-foot sidewalk, which is more than what's required along Sistrunk.
And how about along Andrews?
At its most narrow point, by the way, it gets much wider as you go to the west. Along Andrews, we have a minimum. We're not asking for any waivers or step backs requirements along Andrews, and that sidewalk is a minimum of 10 feet.
10 feet.
That's correct.
Does 10 feet allow for canopy trees?
Well, let me explain that. That's 10 feet of actual sidewalk area, clean sidewalk area. It does not include the canopy trees and does not include the landscaping and the access to the building and where there's a walkway along the building. That's street sidewalk that's open to the public, uninterrupted.
Right, but with that measure of setback, can canopy trees be accommodated in that space?
Yes. So we've accommodated the travel lanes of Andrews Avenue, street trees along there, then a 10-foot sidewalk, then you can't see me, I'm like pointing here, and then a landscape strip, I'm sorry, and then the building itself.
Okay.
So yes, that will include the plans that are before you do include shade trees and a 10-foot sidewalk that aren't coterminous, that are separate from each other, as well as additional landscaping up against the building.
All right, now you indicated that this is a transitional height. You said there's a 30-story building. Where is there a 30-story building?
Fat Village, which is the
southwest.
Yeah, just to the southwest is the Fat Village project, and the zoning
so
to the south.
That's anticipated then. It's not there.
That's
now,
correct. It's anticipated. That's correct. The properties to the south of Sistrunk permit up to 30 stories. As you go further north from this neighborhood, you get back into 30 stories up, where there's currently a 30-story building, and then of course around Searstown. But in this area, we've transitioned from that 30 to 16 to what eventually, you would typically see about 12 stories.
Right. So you want so the height limit is 12 stories, but you want 16, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And what is the need for that?
That's to incorporate, that's actually to make the building buildable with the percentage of affordable units, which as I said, about 57% affordable. Those units will not be any different from any of the market rate units in the project. They'll be the same size, they'll have the same amenities, the same countertops, the same kitchens, bathrooms, etc. So in order to bring this project in, as you know, we've been going back and forth with construction costs where they are now. This is a way we can make it work. I will tell you that the developer has secured the lending, both through the help of the city of Fort Lauderdale, CRA, both through Broward County and traditional lenders, and is ready to commence construction on the building.
Okay.
Did you say 57.57%?
That's correct.
Affordable, okay.
Okay, Leanne, are you online? Is Leanne Barber online?
Yeah, I want to make one other point while we're waiting for Leanne. Of the 57% that's affordable, one of the things that also is unique about this project is it's not all at the moderate income level, 120% of area median income. A percentage of those 53 units are at the very low income. So in this building, you will have a percentage, it's restricted for 75 years as well, much more than the traditional 30 years. For 75 years, 53 of the units will be restricted to very low. 97 of the units will be restricted for 75 years for moderate income. And then the remaining of the units will also be a mixed income. I mean, will be market rate units.
Is Leanne Barber online?
Mayor, I just got a text, from Leanne. She says she's on the call. She's waiting to be recognized and the system isn't letting her in.
Okay, I just got recognized.
Well, there you go.
Okay, very good. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. First of all, we welcome affordable housing.
Mr. Barber, if we can have you sworn in.
Can you raise your hand?
And
We
Mr.
need to
Larson,
see a visual of
please
this.
stop. Thank you.
Can we get a visual? Do you have a camera on your computer?
Yep. Yes.
Can you initiate it?
You see me now?
Unless you look like Commissioner Glassman, no.
Well, I have unmuted my, start your video. Okay, I'm starting my, unable to access camera. Okay, let me check my settings. Technology is wonderful when it works. Camera, Zoom. I may have to do the same as Mr. Lockery. I'm not able to get to my settings now. It's zoomed out on me.
Well, I recognize her voice. So can you raise your right hand?
Yes.
Sure it's your right one, not your left? Okay. Can you please respond to the clerk?
Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yeah, I do.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. As I said earlier, we welcome more affordable housing units in Flagler Village. What we want is an open dialogue with the developer prior to the commission making a decision. And we did get a presentation from the developer, I don't know, 18 months ago, 12 months ago, but the project has changed substantially. And I've been having a dialogue with Commissioner Glassman about how does the neighborhood get more formally engaged in the process before decisions are made. And so we got sight of the traffic plan last night, and I've had a bit of time to read it. I'm just seeing some of the presentation today. It makes it very difficult to have a thoughtful and cohesive response. We are concerned about the traffic on Sistrunk because there is only one lane on Sistrunk and it's always backed up as it is. So we're not sure about left turn lanes onto First Avenue Northeast. The second concern that I have off the top of my head, not having had time to thoroughly consider it, is there isn't any further infrastructure planned to accommodate, another 300 or 400 people coming into the neighborhood. Specifically, for example, are sidewalks, not necessarily sidewalks on the property, but sidewalks on the surrounding streets. And so the traffic study says that there are sidewalks on surrounding the development, but that's not actually the case. There are no sidewalks on Sistrunk, on the north side of Sistrunk, between 3rd Avenue and 6th Avenue. and federal. And that makes walking very difficult. And we're adding more volume of people that are going to want to get to the various places. And it's, it's already creating a hazardous situation for pedestrians and for drivers. So I know that Commissioner Glassman has told me that there are certain conditions under which neighborhood input is required. I don't know if this project meets this requirement, but we have not had any neighborhood input sought or provided.
Mr. Lockery, did you not present this project to the neighborhood association?
Okay, I'm trying to unmute. So I have to say, Leanne, I've got a little bit of a different recollection of my emails with you, and I certainly don't want to get into a debate about that, but I know you had reached out prior to the DRC meeting in February regarding a meeting. I think it was on February 21st at 11:30. You sent us an email. You'll recall that we responded that we'd be happy to meet with you. And then you came back and said, has the project changed? And I said, yes, it's changed, and we'd really like to set up a time to meet with you. We never heard back from you on that. And we've not met on a number of projects. I know the scheduling is difficult sometimes with the association on projects in Flagler Village, but we're always happy to. In this case, again, we've made ourselves available, and we certainly want to move forward with the project. The change for the public's input side is essentially the new mix of units. But the building, as it lays out, its floor plate, its size, its step backs, all of that remains the same. I will say also, as the sidewalks, we can only control, of course, what's in our environment. There is no sidewalk, for example, along First. We will be building the sidewalk that will be included along First. The project to the south did their share of the sidewalks, as well as the projects to the west and the project to the north. And as we continue to build these blocks out, I think we'll see the unified sidewalk plan.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we've been discussing with the commission, that that the plan right now is just to do it block by block as development happens. But when you add another 300 or 400 people into the mix, and some of the critical infrastructure, I'm not asking for every single block to be paved in every single direction, but there is some critical infrastructure that needs to at least be considered. My issue isn't with you, Mr. Lockery, on that. My issue is that we're not doing transition planning for the commission. With respect to the meetings, we have got a lot going on, and what we want is for there to be a requirement at a certain level that's clearly identified for everybody, so that you don't just, make one email and, if you don't get a response, you say, I've done my due diligence, right? We want to be involved. We have input. We live here. We work here every day. But as long as it's not required, then it doesn't seem to happen.
Well, in all fairness, though, Leanne, he's indicated that he reached out to you and never got a response. So how would you want him to deal with it otherwise?
I would ask him to call me. I would ask him to call me and maybe call me again. Because if it was required, then he knows how to reach me. He has my number. Just because he sent an email and I didn't see the email doesn't mean that we weren't interested. The question is it going to be a requirement for the neighborhood to have input? We've had the same discussion. We go to the DRC meetings and we make our comments, but the comments are not recorded anywhere. So we would like the city ordinance process, or however, whatever it is, to at least require neighborhood comments. I'm not saying approval. I'm not asking for approval. We know we can't get approval. We just want written comments to be part of the DRC submittal before big decisions are being made.
Okay.
Mayor?
One second. Mr. Spence, isn't it part of the process that we get public, that the developer is supposed to reach out to the public prior to?
Not for every level.
Not for every level.
No, not
For
for this
every
project.
development, we have a public participation requirement within the ULDR for certain levels of development.
But not
At the
two.
DRC level, it's a technical review of items.
Right.
So what you have are the trade professionals that are looking at whether or not the development meets certain design criteria of the code. And based on how our code criteria is set up for approval at that level, the consideration of neighbor submittal of comments, unless they are directed towards specific items that are not a part of that evaluation.
I understand, but this is a site plan level 2.
Mhm.
So, is it required that they go out to the reach out to the public before they come before the commission?
I think Mr. Cooper would be able to.
Mr. Cooper, are you on the line?
Chris Cooper.
Chris Cooper?
Yes, I am. Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. So Mr. Spence is correct. So level 2 does not require any sort of public outreach or participation, even when it comes before the commission for a deviation such as this. In the downtown rack, if it's a level 2, there is a call-up requirement, but there's not an actual requirement to hold a public meeting or take any input or feedback from the public. The commission has asked us to look into a process that would allow for that. And so we are looking at some code amendments that could provide some requirement for the applicant to go out into the community and at least present a project to gather some feedback. But I will say, all of the associations for a level 2 project, the presidents receive an email of each and every DRC agenda. We list them by civic association and some other factors that they can determine whether or not it's something they want to be involved in. And those DRC meetings are open to the public, and we do listen to the comments that are made by the public during those meetings.
But can I also, is for the record, the comments are not published, correct?
So the only comments we publish for DRC are comments that deal with the technical requirements of the code. The applicants are there at the DRC meetings and staff is there, and we might hear some of those comments and suggestions about how to make the project better or design the project. But at the end of the day, what we're able to comment on and what the applicants required to respond to are those technical requirements of the code.
Right. So they're not recorded for posterity. And I would say that getting the notice for the DRC a day or two ahead of time, usually without any supporting documentation, is insufficient in my humble opinion. Okay. The humble opinion of the president of the Civic Association is there is not sufficient engagement with the neighborhood. So that's, it's your decision as to whether you want to do anything with that. I can only continue to protest.
And if we
Well,
did receive any, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Chris, but I think that, Leanne has a point. I mean, these are important projects, and, going to the DRC meeting is very limited. A whole neighborhood is not going to show up for that. Usually it's 1 or 2 people from the association. And it's not to say necessarily that the Civic Association members are going to have anything to protest about. They just need to be informed. And I think that sometimes those that live in and around the site kind of know the dynamic of that site better than the developer who doesn't live there. So to know where people walk and how people travel should be an important component for a developer to want to know how are they going to fit into that site going forward and once it's completed. So, I mean, Mr. Lockery, is this going to compromise your client's project if it were to wait till our next meeting so that perhaps you can meet with the association?
Mayor, it will, because the client, I've got them here, they've already closed on the bonds to proceed with this. We know how important this, we know how important this project was to the city, as recently as 2 or 3 months ago. So, sorry, Commissioner Glassman.
Well,
No, that's okay, Mayor. I had asked to speak a while ago and I still haven't been recognized.
you're recognized.
Thank you. What Leanne is saying is correct. And if you remember at our goal setting workshop, I did request that we look at our ordinances and request public participation for every level of development. Again, as a level 2 development, this project did not even go to planning and zoning. This was not even required to go to planning and zoning. Just DRC, just staff. Now, that being said, I always encourage all of the applicants to meet with every single neighborhood in District 2, and they typically do. That was requested of Mr. Lockery. His response to me was that he reached out to Ms. Barber twice with no response. I understand her frustration, but I've been speaking to Chris Cooper about this in terms of changing our ordinances, changing our regulations, so that no matter what level a project is, it will receive neighborhood participation. But because of time constraints on this, because of the fact that we have been charged to incentivize affordable housing, and because of this project as affordable housing, I am not in favor of delaying this project. And I understand that we will still continue to work with the city, Chris's office, in terms of making sure that public participation is required at all levels. But then again, I just know that because it was not required of this and of this project, and the applicant did reach out, I just am not willing to defer this. This project is really important. And if we're talking about financing in place and we're talking about time being as of the essence, then I'm just not willing to take that chance with this particular project. I'm sorry.
Well, the thing is, this project has been delayed not for weeks or months, it's been delayed for years. And the parties have sat on this site and this project for as long as I can remember. So I don't see any eagerness to the race to the finish line by anybody here, other than now the developer wants to get moving on this now that they borrowed the money. Let me ask you this, Leanne. What if this were approved tonight? Would it be of any benefit for the developer to come to your next meeting and to have that conversation? Because something tells me that even with the conversation, if it were to happen before the vote, I would imagine that the commission would probably take your comments into consideration, but still vote for it. Would you see there any benefit to the developer, Mr. Lockery, or his client coming to the association afterwards to see what improvements or what suggestions you might make that they could still incorporate in their project once it's approved?
Of course. You'll get a better project if you have input from the neighborhood.
Right. So
Now, whether
Mr.
they,
Lockery, go ahead, I'm sorry.
no, whether they include it or not is another question, but clearly getting input would make it a better project.
I don't disagree with you. Those that live in an area know what's better for the development. Mr. Lockery, would you have a problem meeting with the association, even if this were approved tonight?
No, absolutely. We're happy to do so. And, Related is built in this neighborhood before. We'll certainly meet whenever they can meet. We will make ourselves available.
Okay. Any further comments or questions? All right, so this is a quasi judicial resolution. Would someone like to move to close public hearing?
So move.
Do I hear a second?
Second,
It's been moved and seconded. Please call the roll regarding public hearing.
Commissioner Herbst,
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman,
Yes,
Commissioner Sturman,
yes,
Mayor Trentalles.
Yes, the public hearing is now closed. Would someone like to introduce the resolution for approval?
Introduced.
Introduced.
It's been introduced.
For approval.
For approval. Please call the roll.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, approving the issuance of a site plan level 2 development permit for an alternative design that meets the overall intent of the downtown master plan for the development of a 16-story multifamily residential and commercial mixed-use project to be known as Gallery at Flagler Village, consisting of 150 residential units from the downtown rack 2006 unit pool for affordable housing, 113 residential flex units, and 2,394 square feet of commercial use for the property located at 600 North Andrews Avenue, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, in the Downtown Regional Activity Center, Urban Village Zoning District, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, and providing for an effective date. Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and the item is approved. And so, Mr. Locker, you'll meet up with the association as soon as they have their next meeting, if you could, please.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you. Okay, moving on to OFR 1. This is the first reading of an ordinance authorizing state and federal criminal history screening checks for certain prospective city employees, specified present city employees, appointees, and private contractor or vendors who have access to sensitive city facilities, providing for severability, providing for conflicts and repeal, providing for correction of scrivener's errors, and providing for an effective date. Does that include commissioners? Anyone have any questions? Would someone like to introduce the ordinance?
Introduced.
An ordinance of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, authorizing state and federal criminal history screening checks for certain prospective city employees, specified present city employees, appointees, and private contractors or vendors who have access to city facilities that are critical to security or public safety, providing for severability, providing for correction of scrivener's errors, and providing for an effective date. Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Mr. Sturman?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and that item is approved on first reading. OFR 2, first reading, ordinance amending section 8-91 mooring structures. Any questions regarding this? If none, would someone like to introduce the ordinance?
Introduced.
Please call the roll.
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, amending section 8-91 entitled Mooring Structures of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, to amend the meaning of term mooring device and mooring structures, providing for severability, repeal of conflicting ordinance provision, providing for correction of scrivener's errors, and providing for an effective date. Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and the ordinance approved on first reading. That concludes this printed portion. We now have a walk-on. This is the
So,
walk-on.
Commissioners, we've sent you previously the walk-on for a motion. I've just sent to your emails, or the clerk has sent to your emails a resolution. It's basically the same as the motion that was proposed. We believe that should be memorialized in the form of a resolution rather than a motion.
So basically, it's to ratify the local state of emergency proclamation, which was issued on April 12th, and should it need to be extended, can be according to law. Have you all had a chance to pull it up? Any questions? No.
Where is that located?
Yes, I'm.
Hmm?
It would be in your email.
David, could you send that to me? David?
Yes, I'm sending it right now.
Is there anything else? Anything else?
Give me one moment, please.
Take your time.
That's a big table.
Do they use
Okay, thank you. I had an opportunity to read it. Thank you.
Okay, I just got it.
Okay, take a minute, a couple minutes to read it.
Okay.
Anyone have any questions?
No, just give me 1 second, Dean. Mr. Mayor, give me
Okay,
1 second.
Okay.
Okay, good, that's fine.
Okay. Would someone like to introduce the resolution?
I'll introduce it.
Okay. Please call the roll.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, ratifying the mayor's proclamation of local state of emergency for a localized flooding event, authorizing the mayor to extend the proclamation consistent with Florida law and providing for an effective date. Commissioner Herbst,
Yes.
Mr. Glassman,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman,
Yes,
Commissioner Sturman,
Yes.
Mayor Trent House.
Yes, and that resolution is now approved. Any further business of the commission, Mr. City Manager?
No.
Anyone else have any questions or additional business of the commission?
No.
There being none, this meeting is now concluded. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
thank you.
1 second.
Okay, we need to have a special meeting. Let's just try to make ourselves available in case.
That's it.
Recording stopped.